Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Becker, and I am the Norma Jean Calderwood Director of the Cambridge Art Association. And I want to thank you all for joining us tonight for the virtual opening reception of Attention to Detail, which is our January exhibit at our Catherine Schultz Gallery. If you had not already muted yourself, I will ask you to mute yourself for the next couple of minutes. We will kick off the evening with a gallery tour of the works that are on view behind me. And then we will hear from both of our curators, Edwina Rissland and Lorraine Sullivan, discussing the inspiration behind Attention to Detail, followed by talks from each of the participating artists, Nancy Beam, David Lee Black, Edwina Rissland, and Lorraine Sullivan. They'll each discuss one piece that's on view in the exhibit right now. And then at the very end, we will have breakout rooms where you can socialize and we can all pretend we're celebrating together, even though we're many miles apart. I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been quite a week in our country, and I hope that this hour of looking at art and talking about art can be a respite from all the other things that are going on in the world. Before we show the exhibition video, I will note one thing. We are recording this. The recordings of the exhibition tour and the artist talk, but not the breakout rooms, will be available on YouTube next week. I also want to acknowledge that the Cambridge Art Association is situated on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Massachusetts people, and we acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this territory, and we honor and respect the many diverse Indigenous peoples still connected to this land on which we gather, both literally and virtually. So now our Assistant Director, Rebecca Schnapp, will play the virtual exhibition tour. everyone enjoyed the exhibition tour. I posted in the chat during the tour if you want to let us know where you're joining us from, or if you have any compliments or comments for the artist, you can put those in the chat. You'll see that across the bottom of your screen here. If you want to react to anything, there's also a reactions button. So during the speeches, if you want to like clap or a little heart or whatever positivity you want to send the artist way, we encourage you to do that as well. Before we get to the talks, I do want to let you know that you can see the exhibit online as well if you go to cambridgeart.org and follow the links through to the attention to detail page. There's a virtual exhibition page as well. So if you want to get a closer look at some of those artworks that you just saw in the tour, you can do that there. But for right now, I just have to find our presenters again, and we're going to put the spotlight on Edwina, Rissland, and Lorraine.
Okay. Well, Erin asked me to say a few words about how this exhibit came to be. It started with a conversation between Lorraine and myself, and we were talking about how much we love to focus on details. So we said, let's propose an exhibit. We thought of inviting David Lee Black and Nancy Beams to join us. We weren't contemplating doing this in a time of COVID, but here we are. Of course, it would be much more fun to be with you all in person in the Catherine Schultz Gallery and to be able to enjoy each other's company in person. But thank you for coming and for Zooming with us.
Good.
Attention to detail. The details that all four of us attend to are primarily visual, of course, but there are also explorations of the details of personal landscapes or what's going on around us. For instance, in her exquisite etchings, Nancy captures not only the fine structures of sunflowers, like their striations or the delicate curling of their petals, but also how they represent emotions like compassion and joy. And she feels that these etchings are a window into such emotions and a means to explore them. I'm sure she'll talk about that in a moment. Lorraine and I love rust and grotty old pieces of mechanical things. Her piece, The Writer, disassembles and then reimagines the innards of an old manual typewriter. This is more than just an assemblage of parts. It is a narrative of a writer. Lorraine, I believe. I must say, Lorraine is a true alchemist who can mix elements of uncertain provenance to represent in a Proustian kind of way remembrances of people and events past. Her pieces can also be strikingly on point for what's going on in the world around us. I suggest you take a look again at Tin Pot Dictator and also her body count, which I think she'll speak about later. David also speaks of his art as a journey or an adventure of living, and not just as an exercise in seeing. His images are a way to capture what he calls decisive moments involving places or people he has met en route. Sometimes his journeys can be close and take him to a nearby town with an old mill. Perhaps he goes on his motorcycle. Other times he ventures further afield, like to the western coast of Ireland. Myself, I like to focus on the detail of things, particularly those that I find on my early morning prowls through boatyards and markets. I like to edit down reality. Doing this, I feel, frees the lens and the imagination to discover entirely new universes. For instance, the scraped paint on an old hull being refurnished in a boatyard can be a mountain range or maybe a distant horizon. The sand that has lodged in the crevices of the skull of a beached whale can present a fantastical hidden cove. All of our pieces are about details, sometimes mundane, but always engaging. Turn it over to Lorraine.
Oh, I wasn't ready.
I'm sorry.
It's funny, if you haven't noticed, Edwina is a mathematician, and she has guided us through this and rewritten the statements she just read, rewritten, and because she had to get it down to be 4 equal parts. And she ended up with each of us having 138 words precisely. That's the mind of a mathematician. And she has guided us through this very nicely. She's done most of the work. I think my contribution was to do some labels. The best part of this, the frosting on the cake, after COVID hit, we wondered if this would not happen. And I so miss hanging work, real work, going to a real show, seeing art, real art. And I have to confess, I'm shallow enough. I miss the cheap wine. I miss the opening reception. I miss all the conversation with fellow artists. I love that. And I feel like I've gone dry this year because I've been making things. I had a serious health issue, and I also I dealt with that in my work. I have been working without realizing the satisfaction of exhibiting. So I was thrilled for this opportunity and to work with Edwina and the other artists, Nancy and David. I think it makes for a wonderful show, and it's slow down. It ended up being very profoundly fitting for the times we're in. Slow down and look more carefully and think more carefully. And I think that's sort of symbolic of a lot of things going on in the world now. And it was a pleasure and an honor to work with these people. And it was really great fun for Edwina and I a couple days ago to arrange all this work in that show. And I haven't seen it yet, except for this video, but it looks terrific. I can't wait to get in and see it. I hope you're able to come and see it. Book an appointment and come in. It's just so nice to have real work in a show. I have missed it, so. Okay.
All right, so we're going to hear from Nancy Beams. I just have to remember how to remove the spotlight.
Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I just want to welcome everybody too. I know I have a lot of friends and my sister here, and I'm so happy that they could join us. And I am thrilled to be a part of this exhibit with Dave and Lorraine and Edwina. I did nothing to get it ready, but they did a great job. All of my etchings since about 2015, when I graduated from art school, have been my own personal journey, discussing my feelings. And I've used the sunflower primarily as a metaphor to show this. I kind of got caught into it from school because I did my project on this, and I just keep using the sunflower because I can say so many things with it. I'm going to show you the hug because this is my most recent one that I did, and it is relevant to the times, and it was done because of the times. You know, since for the past 6 or 7 years, I've been a caregiver for the elderly. And I actually had 2 clients for that total time. And both of them passed away in the past 5 months. And they were absolutely wonderful people. And one woman was my age and lived in a nursing home, and she was disabled. She was a feisty person. But we had fun together, and I took her to museums, and we just had and walks and things like that. And the other woman was 97 years old, and she probably was the love of my life. I have to say, what she gave to me, the two of them, I realized in their passing that they probably gave more to me than I gave to them. And their histories and I learned, my 97-year-old woman, I always call her that. She's, well, her parents were immigrants, and I just learned all about her culture, about her religion. She would tell me stories and over again, and I would listen, and she would listen to me. I did go to their burials because at this time, they didn't die because of COVID, but because of COVID, all you could participate in was the burial. And I don't think I realized until I went to the burials just how emotional, just how, I mean, I couldn't believe that you couldn't hug them. And it really struck me. I couldn't hug their family, their sister, you know, it just was difficult. So I decided to do this picture, the hug. And I spend a lot of time thinking about how I'm going to portray what I want to say. And I wanted two sunflowers hugging. And I decided I really wanted two old people. And I wanted, so, you know, I have to kind of dry the sunflowers and, you know, they kind of crumble a little. But, and I spend a lot of time thinking about how I, my composition and how I want to show them. And for this, you have to look closely to see that they're hugging. And you have to look closely to see the detail of the leaves and the crumbling. And that's done on purpose. I do the detail because I want you to look closely. And it makes it more intimate to me. It makes the feeling for what they're doing stronger. I also wanted it to be in the center of the paper. And I also wanted it to stand out. I just have learned in my old age too that hugging is important. And I also feel that all my other pictures that are in this show are somewhat related to this hug, you know, because they talk about anxiety, they talk about compassion, humility, shame, joy, support, confusion, all of those, you know, if you just had a good hug, it might help. So that's my new one. And I hope you come and enjoy the show. Thank you.
Oh, nice.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Our next speaker is going to be David Lee Black. And David is going to be speaking about tumbleweed.
Well, I too would like to thank everyone that's invited me to be a part of this show. When I was first asked, like everyone, I thought it would be a show in not virtual, where we could actually go in and see the work and hang out and hug, share laughs, and
Yeah.
we all miss that terribly. But I was in the studio today before I came back for my first Zoom of this whole experience. I've kind of slid under the radar with Zooming, but I was talking to someone, John Lang, the son of David Lang, in the studio, and we were discussing. I was just telling about the show tonight and mentioned that Lorraine knew his father, David, who had passed away, and was a mentor of mine and dear friend. And he was so pleased that, just keeping on tradition, the crucial work that we're doing to get art out there, despite all odds. I mean, what choice do we have, really? I mean, we could not make art. I don't think that's a choice for this group especially. So when I was asked to do it, I was just completely thrilled. And Cambridge Art Association has been very kind to me, and it's such a cool spot and just a great familiar community, and everybody's so supportive, and it's just a really cool scene for me. So many thanks to everyone. So my piece that is Tumbleweed Connection was taken in Piedmont, Wyoming. And I would happen to be in Piedmont, Wyoming, because my daughter was getting married on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. And I did some exploration after the wedding, and they actually brought me to this ghost town of Piedmont. And it's completely just like you would think a ghost town is, just some shacks and kind of a, swinging, slamming screen door, and all the windows are broken out and there's bullet holes. And, but in my camera bag, I carry a gifted belly dance veil that was given to me by a dear friend. I take a lot of photographs of dancers, professional ballet dancers, belly dancers, and this particular veil was in my bag, and I kind of stuck it in the window of this building that it was in. I think it was the general store. I have to look back on that, but it was looking out upon the prairie, and lo and behold, when I tacked it up, a tumbleweed did catch into it, and I just let it fly for a while and did a series of photographs of it, and some were better than others. And I chose this one because it seemed to capture the fluidity of the veil and the motion and the kind of, it reminds me of the human condition that we're all in, like kind of like a tumbleweed, really. We're just tossing, fringed, homeless in this weird human condition, flailing around, trying to find meaning, free and wild. Or, on the other hand, are we kind of in a constant pursuit of some rooted grasp, but like a deep rooted connection, whether relationships, family, political affiliations? It's a struggle for me to kind of separate the two, and maybe they're not so different after all. But exploring this abandoned ghost town of Piedmont, Wyoming was kind of a journey forwards in time, maybe definitely backwards in time, and kind of maybe an illusion of the highest order. I don't know, it could all be BS for all I know, but I really enjoyed taking the photograph, and I printed it in a way that it did not have borders, no frame, so it's kind of free in its own way, and it could extend beyond. And it's a metallic frame, which I don't do a lot of, but I thought this worked with that particular piece. And so it's kind of in a black and white with a little bit of tweak, but I'm very happy that Tumbleweed is in this show, because in these times, I think we all feel a little bit like a tumbleweed, trying to find a connection in all the weirdness. And I think in time, this too shall pass. And there's a quote that every generation thinks that these are crucial times. I kind of, these are, but we're in this generation, and this too shall pass. And I think to something better. And that's kind of where I'm at with all this. Tomorrow may be a different day. We'll see how that goes. But thank you, everyone. And thank you for tuning in to this virtual experience. And if you can, I think it's 6 people allowed at a time in the gallery. Make an appointment and check it out, and go soak up some art. This is really a strong show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. So our next speaker is Edwina Rissland, and she is going to be discussing right whale number 17, which is actually a 4-part piece.
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, good. In 2017, 17 North Atlantic right whales perished in the waters off of the Northeast United States. Number 17, that I came to know was called Picasso, was one that died in Nantucket Sound. Part of her washed up on Nantucket and part washed up on Martha's Vineyard. Picasso was so called because of very striking white scars on her head that had been caused by the propellers of a ship striking her when she was but 3 years old. When she died, she was 20. Eventually, her blanched, bleached skull came to rest on East Beach on Chappaquiddick on the southern shore. And that was during the fall of 2017. And so during the fall of 2017 and into the winter of 2018, I would go to East Beach and visit this skull and do studies of her. I found it incredibly sad. No one should be able to look into the blowhole of a whale. No one. It's a very intimate space, and it felt like a transgression. Nonetheless, I have been doing studies of this skull. It is now moved to a safer location on Chappaquiddick that is more sheltered from the wind. As you probably know, North Atlantic right whales are on the verge of extinction. And this is due to ships striking them and their entanglements in fishing gear. And of course, from the extensive whaling that was done 100, 150 years ago. They are enormous creatures. They weigh 70 tons, up to 70 feet long. A third of that is their head, and they can live longer than 50 years. In this, what you're looking at right now is a peek into one part of the skull, and it reminded me of a hidden cove. If you didn't know that this was the inside of this skull, you might think you were someplace else, that you were looking at a rock formation of some secret beach someplace. The one above it has a feeling of the curl of a wave. And the one down at the top one, of course, is the blowhole. And the one at the very bottom was taken a little later in the winter when the skull began to lose some of its nice fresh color and became darker. And this I called bonescape, and it's an area again around the blowhole. So there are only about 350 to 360 of these magnificent creatures left. About 85 are females. And unfortunately, they are not reproducing at the rate one would expect. So they are in dire straits. I'd like to mention or refer to another group that's in this show, the 4 pictures that have to do with Captain William Martin, because Captain William Martin was an Edgartown whaling captain at the height of the whaling days. He lived from 1830 to 1907. He made 14 voyages on whalers, becoming a captain partway through his career. He is one of a small handful of whaling captains from Martha's Vineyard who were actually men of color. There were very few men of color in the whaling business. Overall, out of 2,500 American whaling captains, only about 60 were men of color. He grew up in Edgartown, was educated in Edgartown. He married in between one of these voyages a woman named Sarah Brown, who was a member of the Wampanoag tribe on Chappaquiddick. After they married, they moved to a very small but tiny and very, very trim 2-story house on Chappaquiddick. This house is just down the road from me. Unfortunately, it has fallen into a really serious state of disrepair. Captain Martin and his wife are buried nearby in a very small and quite quiet and lovely burying ground. So I find it interesting that these two very different stories of whales and whaling are connected geographically. All of the points, Captain Martin's house, his burying place, Picasso's final resting place with a skull, and East Beach are all within a mile of one another. So they're geographically close, and they connect two strands of a complicated long story that goes on for 100, 150 years. It feels almost cosmic. Thank you.
Thank you. Ooh, that was a little fast. Our final speaker of the night will be Lorraine Sullivan, speaking about body count, which I'm going to try to get in the frame, but I'll do probably more.
Yeah. Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead, Lorraine.
Okay. It's very hard to photograph. If you go in really, really, really close, because you don't know what it is when you look at it. And it's all little embroidery thread stitches. Yeah. It took me 2 months this past winter to do that. And I felt like the woman in Tale of Two Cities that knit the name of everyone that was executed into her knitting. Because what I started with this piece is that it's called Body Count, and how every night on TV, Phil and I are having dinner, and we're looking at crawl. That's the number of people that died. And it was numbers about numbers. The number of people that died from COVID, the number of new cases from COVID, the number of people tested, and it was numbers, numbers, numbers. And it reminded me of something else. It kind of haunted me for a while. And it was Vietnam. And having dinner at night during that time, on the bottom of the news, there was a crawl that was the number of people that died in Vietnam at the time. And it struck me at the same profound sadness that every one of those numbers is a life, a human being. And a lot of the work that I've been doing this past winter and fall has really been reflective of what's going on in the world. I'm like a caged animal. I'm reacting to emotionally what we are all going through. And with this piece, I usually don't have a plan. I mess with things and put them together, and it reminds me of something. And it's a sort of less formal process. But on this particular piece, I had the idea first. And I wanted to do something about counting and how I've always been fascinated since I was a little kid, and my mother explained this to me. If you put a line, a line, a line, a line, and then a line through it, that equals 5. Now, Edwina, the mathematician, is probably out there laughing at me. But as a system to represent counting of something, I've always been fascinated with that. And I thought it was very, I'm a graphic designer. It's very graphic. And it's almost like a herringbone tweed pattern that you can make out of it. And I wanted to do a piece called Body Count. I had the title before I made the piece, that got into the horrific number of people that have died. And I need a structure. And this is all very symbolic. The very top cross, three crosses. I see this as three crosses. And the top cross is the red cross. And that's where I started. And all the little lines, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are very wobbly and they get broken and they're very imperfect. And it's Red Cross and it's human because they're rickety and not precise. Okay, that's the top cross. And I was doing an evolution. So in the middle cross is a transition where we're getting a little more organized and it becomes a little more elongated. That center vertical piece is longer. I realized the Red Cross is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perfect squares. It's again, a mathematical thing. But now I'm transitioning down to an extended bar down the center. And the very last one, and the stitches get more precise. And the very bottom one is the proportions of a tombstone. It's very often used in military burial grounds. If you've ever been to a cemetery in a foreign country that's American soldiers that are buried there, you see row upon row of this proportion. And it goes, there's 1, 2, 3, 1 in the middle, 1, 2, 3 around the top and the sides, and then double on the bottom. So it's twice as long, that piece. So I've gone from Red Cross to a transition to the very bottom where it's dead. And it's very precise. So you think, sometimes you look at a piece of art and you go, why is that? I don't know, I like it. I like the color, it's kind of funky. But how did it get that way? And this evolved, it evolved and evolved. And as I'm doing it, I'm thinking, it goes from a Red Cross to a transition, and at the bottom it gets more tight ass. And it's more mechanical. And I see all that and I think I'm putting it in there. And all I can do is hope that the viewer looks and they go, I don't know what that's really about, but I think somebody died. You know, I like it when a piece is open-ended and the people looking at it can interpret it and relate it. These numbers could represent people that died in the Civil War. They could be people that died in Vietnam, which was in my head. It could be as recent as now, people that are dying of COVID. But to me, it comes across clearly. It's about what's called body count. Read the tag. That it's about bodies piling up. What made them become bodies and made them pile up can go into your interpretation. And I like that when I make a piece that's a little more, I'd say universal, so that the viewer gets to sort of factor it into their own experience and see what they think of it. This took me two months. I mean, I didn't work 8 hours a day, but I'd sit there and at the kitchen table, watch the news and watch that body count number grow and grow and grow. I understand yesterday it was 4,000 something. And it's kind of a sad piece, but I don't know, symbolic. Out of I have 11 pieces in the show, and 6 of them are have never left my studio. So this is its maiden voyage. And there are, other pieces there that are no one has seen, because no one's coming here. And I mean, I'm in such isolation that I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to put it out there in the world and have people think about something, relate it to what they feel or think or whatever. There's several kind of sad pieces, but it's all reflective of what I think we're all living through right now, and that's what an artist does. Doesn't have to be pretty pictures with fruit in a bowl. And something that really pleases me about the show is I think all 4 artists really, very often I've been in shows where the title was came up, that piece that you just went by, back up. This piece, yes. See this sad person holding that flower that looks dead? The title of this piece is called Sorry. And it's the first thing I made after I was diagnosed with cancer. And it's the most profoundly sad thing I've ever made. It's an angel that has wings. There's a nest in there. It's like I just had great fun. It has a halo, and that flower and those scrawny hands just makes it just look so pathetic. It's kind of fun to play with emotion in your art and see if people react to it the same way. But I've had a few people see this and say, that's the saddest thing I ever saw. And I said, well, good. That's what I was trying to do. I was glad that the show, we came up with the title first and we fit the work to it. And I think it made for a coherent show, and 4 different human beings that pay attention to details. The devil is in the details, but we see them all in a very different way. And I think that's what kind of holds this show together. I hope you're going to be able to find a way to schedule and come in and see this work up close and personal, because it's a spectacular show. And I'm thrilled that we have the opportunity to do this.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for any of the artists?
Anybody? Everybody. Yes.
Raise your hand or.
I don't know. Can you hear me? I unmuted myself.
Yes.
I just want to say the work is inspiring.
Hmm.
I was not sure how this kind of an arrangement would play out, but to be able to hear the artists, look at the work and so on, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And thank you for your work. And thank you for doing this.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you.
So we do have about 5 more minutes. If you would like to go into breakout rooms to socialize with each other, we can send you into breakout rooms. It won't be organized in the way that like you can definitely talk to someone that you came here to see, because that's super complicated. But we're going to open them up. If you would like to follow, just follow the little prompt that pops up on your screen. And we'll welcome you back here in about 5 minutes to say goodnight.
Well, I just wanted to add a comment that is just, it's wonderful. The depth of understanding that each of you added to your work is wonderful. It not just one, puts many layers into the show. So thank you for your comments. They're really lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Diane had a question.
Hello?
Hi, Devin.
Hi, no, it wasn't a question.
Hi, Diane.
Hi, how are you all?
I want to hug you.
Oh, I know. Gosh, I just think it's one of the best shows I've seen at the Cambridge. It's everything is at a high level of excellence, and I just really love it. Good work, you guys.
Try to come see it. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I've been really, really isolating. I haven't. That means getting on a bus for me, and I haven't been on a bus yet.
Yeah. Oh, good. Are you painting?
Oh, you bet. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I had a good year actually. Selling online. I mean, in the virtual shows, I sold 13 pieces.
wow, that's wonderful. Yeah.
18 of them I donated to organizations.